from, ayan, mula po dito, yan, yung buong chapter 2 hanggang Kirchhoff's laws. Okay? So, yun po yung scope. The thing is, kaya naman hindi po ako nakapagsabi ng maaga na Saturday, Friday is dahil yung iba kong pinagtanungan ay syempre, hindi pa din sure. So, nung Sunday ko lang na-confirm na mayroong room, kaso ayun nga, Monday, but kung Monday naman, hindi naman natin na-discuss yung Kirchhoffs. And then, Wednesday, unfortunately, so, hindi kayo pwede nun. And then, yung Thursday naman, again, hindi din ulit kayo pwede that time. So, I have decided na kahit tayo magagawal sa oras, edi schedule natin yon next week. So, yung next face-to-face natin, unahin natin midterms kasi supposedly next week is your finals. Ang nangyayari, week 6, no? Kailangan talaga nating pumasok week 6 ng face-to-face. May room man o wala, bahala na. Kumbaga ganon. Basta tayo hahanap ng room. Okay? Kasi kailangan natin makapag-exam within that week. Ayun. So before we start, I have prepared here a video from YouTube lang naman. Just a quick overview regarding Kirchhoff's laws. So, magiging madali na itong mga discussion natin. Kasi actually, ito namang Kirchhoff's law is more on the basics lang naman. Hindi naman natin totally siya pakahihirapan. This is more of the side ng introduction. Concept lang. Okay. So, may inusap ako dito si Ms. Luwalhati. Okay. Ngayon pa-present naman ako nung kay Engineered Man. Ayan. Kasi siya yung may maayos na explanation nakita ko doon. Okay, makinig ah. Pa-open ako ng inyong camera ha.
Welcome to Engineered Math. In this video, I will teach you about Kirchhoff's voltage and current law. So what is Kirchhoff's voltage and current law? So basically, Kirchhoff's voltage and current law are one of the most fundamental laws that governs in electrical circuits. So we can apply them whatever electrical circuits we have. So no matter how many independent or dependent voltage or sources we have, together with passive or active elements for a given circuit, we can apply the Kirchhoff's voltage and current law. So let's start with Kirchhoff's current law or KCL. So Kirchhoff's current law or KCL states that the sum of the currents entering a node is equal to the sum of the currents leaving the node. So by the way, I already have a previous video about branches, nodes, loops, and meshes. So if you haven't watched that yet, I will just put the link of the video in the description so you can check them first. Because we're gonna use the concept of nodes and loops here in Kirchhoff's voltage and current law. So for Kirchhoff's current law or KCL, we will use the term node. Why? Because according to KCL, the sum of the currents leaving a node is equal to the sum of the currents entering the node. So let's say for example, we have this illustration. So for this figure, let's consider this node. Let's name it as A. So from this node A, we see that we have different currents entering and leaving this node. So we have currents I1, I2, I3, I4, and I5. So if we sum up the currents entering and leaving this node A, it must be equal to 0. Or in other words, the sum of current leaving is equal to sum of current entering at node A. So let's consider first the sum of the currents leaving node A. So looking at this figure, we see that the currents leaving node A are currents I2 and I5 since their direction is away from node A, right? So that we have summation of current leaving equal to I2 plus I5 equal to this time summation of current entering. So obviously, those currents that are left, I1, I3, and I4 are the currents entering node A since the direction of their arrows is going to node A. So that the summation of current entering node A is equal to I1 plus I3 plus I4. So this is now our KCL equation for the figure. Next, let's consider Kirchhoff's voltage law or KVL. So before we proceed with the definition or concept of KVL, let's discuss first the passive sign convention, because this is the sign convention that we will use for our KVL equations. So passive sign convention states that it is satisfied when the current enters through the positive terminal of an element and P is equal to positive VI if the current enters through the negative terminal, P is equal to negative VI. So let's say we have an active element which is a voltage source. So using the passive sign convention, as an active element, this voltage source should supply a power. So therefore, the current, let's say I, should enter the negative polarity and leaves the positive polarity of the voltage source. And let's say the value of the voltage source is V, we can have the power equal to V times I, which must be negative. So if the power is negative, it means that it is supplying the power. How about for passive elements? Let's say a resistor. So for passive elements, let's say resistor, it always dissipates or absorbs power. So that the current I should always enter a positive polarity and leave a negative polarity for a resistor. So if the voltage drop across a resistor is V and the current flowing through it is I, using passive sign convention, its power is equal to VI with a positive sign. And this positive power for passive element resistor denotes that it is always absorbing or dissipating power. Okay, so always take note of these conventions. Going back to Kirchhoff's voltage law or KVL, this time it states that the algebraic sum of all voltages around a closed path or loop is 0. So if in KCL we use the concept of nodes, this time for KVL we will use the concept of loops. So let's say we have this circuit, we have a voltage source V1, voltage source V4, we have an unknown element V5 with polarity plus minus, and we have two resistors with voltage drop named as V2 and V3. So if you see resistors within a given circuit, you can always assign a polarity to them.
Fog nose and headache? May power move dyan. Decolgen Forte.
So let's say I will assign a polarity of plus minus for this voltage drop across this resistor V2, and therefore the direction for the current flowing through this resistor should point to the right. Since, as what we've discussed, using passive sign convention, the current for a resistor always enters the positive polarity. Likewise, I will assign plus minus for the voltage drop across this resistor V3, and therefore the direction of current should point to the right, since for a resistor, the current should always enter the positive polarity. So for the polarity of V1 and V4 as well as in V5, we just need to follow their initial polarities. We don't need to assign polarities to them. Okay? So if we apply KVL for this circuit, we can assign the direction for the current for the loop. So let's say we will assign a clockwise direction of current for this loop. And let's name it as current I. So to sum up the voltages around the loop, it must be equal to 0. So the sign convention that we will have for each of the voltages within the loop, so whatever polarity our assigned direction of current for the loop enters a specific voltage within the loop, then that will be the sign of our voltage. So let's say for V1, since the current I enter first the positive polarity of V1, its sign should be negative V1. And for V2, since the current will enter the positive polarity, its sign is positive V2. Likewise, for V3, since it will enter the positive polarity, its sign is positive V3. For V4, the current enters the negative polarity, so it should be negative V4. Lastly, for V5, the current enters the positive polarity, so therefore, we have positive V5. And since we don't have any more voltage around the loop, we can now equate it to 0. So therefore, our KVL equation for this circuit is negative V1 plus V2 plus V3 minus V4 plus V5 equals 0. Okay? We can also apply KVL to find the value series connection of these three batteries. So if we try to assume a clockwise direction of current around the loop, applying KVL, summation of voltage is equal to 0. So using the sign convention, so this current I will enter the negative polarity of VT. So we have negative VT. It will enter the positive polarity of 5 volts. So we have plus 5 volts. It will enter the negative polarity of 3 volts. So we have negative 3 volts. And it will enter the positive polarity of 7 volts. We have positive 7 volts. And then equate it to 0. So combining similar terms, we have negative VT. So plus 5 minus 3 plus 7 is equal to positive 9 volts equal to 0. And then solving for VT, we just transpose it to 9 volts. Okay? So one of the applications of KCL can be illustrated for a parallel circuit. So if we have these three parallel resistors R1 to R3 and connected across a voltage source VT, so assigning a polarity and direction of current for each resistor using passive sign convention, we have, so here is now is the assigned polarity and direction of currents for the resistors R1 to R3. So if we try to name this node as node A, and if we sum up the currents at this node, so we have summation of current entering is equal to summation of current leaving at node A. So for the current entering, we only have one current IT, right? So we have IT equal to, for the summation of current leaving, we have three currents, I1, I2, and I3. So we have I1 plus I2 plus I3. So therefore, we have proven that the total current is equal to the sum of the currents flowing through each resistor. Okay? Now, for KVL, the application can be for series resistor circuits. So if we have here two resistors, R1, R2, and R3, connected across a battery VT, and if we will try to assign a polarity for each of the resistors using passive sign convention, let's say for R1 plus minus, R2 plus minus, and R3 plus minus. And if we assign the clockwise direction of current for the loop IT, applying KVL, we have summation of voltage is equal to 0 around the loop. We can have for VT, the current will enter the negative polarity, so we have negative VT. For R1, the current enters positive polarity, so we have positive V1. For R2, the current enters positive polarity, so positive V2. And for R3, the current enters positive polarity, so we have positive V3 equals 0. And then transposing VT to the right, we have V1 plus V2 plus V3 equals positive VT. So therefore, we have proven that the total voltage VT is equal to the sum of the voltage drop across each resistor. Okay? Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Kirchhoff's voltage and current law. So I hope you learned something from this video and thank
Okay,
you for
thank
watching.
you, Miss
You don't know what an AI work management?
Ayun. Naintindihan ba kahit konti yung introduction regarding Kirchhoff's laws? Okay? So, ayan. So, madali lang naman. Kung magigets lang natin kung gets natin yung mismong circuit. So, ayan. Discuss natin yung kulang para tayo tapos na for midterm. So, Kirchhoff's laws. So, according again, this rule is being used to analyze yung ating mga electrical circuits. So, especially if more on the side of complicated siya. Okay, hindi na siya kumbaga isang simple na one resistor circuit. So, pwedeng yun nga, yung example, 2 resistors, 3 resistors, ayan. So, this law is developed by Gustav Kirchhoff in 1845 and are based on the conservation of charge and conservation of energy. So these laws, they are essential, again, in analyzing complex electrical networks where Ohm's law alone is insufficient. So there are two main laws being discussed as mentioned also in the video. So, unang-una is si Kirchhoff's current law. And then yung pangalawa is Kirchhoff's voltage law. So, let us first discuss si Kirchhoff's current law. So, according dito, that is the algebraic sum of all the currents entering and leaving a junction or a node in a circuit that which is equal to 0. So, meaning, ayan, so meaning po, E in is equal to E out. Okay, E in is equal to E out, meaning the total current entering the node is again equal to the one leaving the node. So, parang lang siyang pipe, di ba? Ito si pipe. Ayan. Okay, 10 meters yung pumasok dyan sa pipe. Of course, yung lalabas dyan, should also be equal to 10 liters. No, hindi siya basta-basta mawawala. So, let us try an example. Okay? So here we have calculate the I3 using the Kirchhoff's current law and apply the junction rule. Ayan. So, according to the video, no, if the current is papasok doon sa ating junction, what would be the sign? Positive. And kapag naman siya magli-leave siya doon sa junction, ang magiging sign natin doon is negative. So using the diagram, I1 alone is equal to 10 amperes. Okay? I2 is equal to negative 4 amperes. So bakit siya negative 4? Dahil again, nag-leave siya, no? Lumabas siya doon sa node. And then I3, we do not know kung siya baga ay kung siya ipapasok or palabas ng junction. Okay? So, yun kasi yung kahalagahan ng dalawang law na yan na yung Ohm's law alone, hindi siya kayang isolve. No? Ano ba yung sign ng ating current na nawawala? Ayan. So, given the equation, again, summation of all the currents at a certain junction must be equal to 0. So therefore, I1 plus I2 plus I3 is equal to 0. So upon substituting the values, pagka sinubstitute natin yan, so this will become 10 amperes plus yung ating I2 which is negative 4 amperes plus yung ating I3 na hindi pa natin alam is equal to 0. Ayan. So, combine like terms. Okay, so positive, negative, this will become negative. So, this will become 6 amperes plus I3 is equal to 0. So, transpose natin si 6 amperes sa kabila, this will become negative 6 amperes. Okay, so, yung negative 6 amperes, so meaning, okay, what would be the direction of our I3? Towards or away from the junction or the node? Chat box na lang. Okay, away. So meaning pagka tayo nag-draw ng pinadraw sa atin yan, ang direction ng inyong I3 ipapaganyan. And I3 is equal to negative 6 amperes. Okay? So ganun lang. Next. Kirchhoff's voltage law. So again, yung sinabi doon sa problem o sa video. Okay? So it states that the algebraic sum of all the voltages around the closed loop is equal to 0. But then again, sabi ni doon sa video, okay, the voltage rise is equal also to the voltage drop. Katulad ng sa series and parallel. Diba? Pagka series, okay, yung summation ng lahat ng voltage drop is equal to the source itself. Okay, so parang ganun lang din. Okay, meaning if the voltage supplied by the battery must be equal also to the voltage used by its resistors. Parang sa, ayun nga, series. Okay, so let us try an example. Ayan. So we have here a circuit. Okay, so meron tayong source dyan, okay, 12 volts. So R1, R2, and R3 is connected with the source, no, As yan, let's say ito ay yung ating VT. Okay. So, R1 daw is 8 ohms, R2 is 10 ohms, and R3 is 12 ohms. Now, ang pinapahanap po sa problem is we have to calculate all the voltage points at A, B, and C. Meaning, okay, hahanapin natin si voltage at point A, voltage at point B, voltage at point C, as well as the current I. Okay, yung nag-flow doon sa circuit. Okay, so according again to the rule, di ba? VT, o kumbaga sabihin natin ng VS o yung V source. Okay? Ano yung magiging sign natin dyan? Class. Okay, V source, di ba ito yung VA, VB, VC, kung kayo ay nakinig doon sa video. Then let's say, we have here a polarity, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay? Ano mangyayari doon? What would be the solution line? Titingnan natin. Ayan. So sabi dito, Vs minus V1 minus V2 minus V3 is equal to 0. So bakit naging ganito yung ating solution line? Anyone from the class? Okay? Bakit po naging ganito? Okay, yes, this line applies the rule of KVL. But paano? Okay. So alam natin na yung ating voltage source is positive. Okay. Okay, this is positive because it is the voltage rise from the battery alone. Next, bakit naman naging negative yung ating resistor voltages, yung V1, yung VA, VB, and VC? So tingin niyo po, bakit sila ay naging negative? Wild guess lang, wala namang maling sagot. Anyone? Sirit na? Didecrease, yes. Okay? So, tama yung concept na didecrease po yung voltage. So, ang tawag doon sa sinasabi ni Mr. Kyle, kaya yung resistor voltages natin are all negative because they are considered as voltage drop. Okay? Kasi diga, sinabi ko yan sa inyo na kapag ka mag-flow ang current na dumaan sa unang resistor, so hindi na siya buong talaga 12 volts, nabawasan na yan. Pag sunod nung sunod na resistor, syempre, iba yung value niya. Let's say 5 ohms, yung una, 1 ohms. So tendency niyan, iba na ulit yung voltage. It's either mababawasan o madadagdagan. So next step ulit, let's say sa R3, iba na ulit. So pabawas ng pabawas. Okay, but again, the summation should be equal to the source. Okay, so that's why naging ganito yung ating solution. Ayan, so paano naman nakuha ang 12 minus 8i minus 10i minus 12i? Okay, akala ko po current ang ating kinukuha. Bakit po tayo nag-voltage? Kasi, okay, ano nga ulit ang formula for voltage? Voltage is equal to current times resistor according to the Ohm's law. Meron tayong voltage, meron tayong value for our resistance. So therefore, makukuha natin si current. Kaya natin siya kinuha. Okay, formula for the voltage. Diba? Ang formula ng voltage is equal to I R. Meaning, the voltage at R sub 1, okay, voltage dito sa part na to is equal to I times R sub 1. Voltage at R sub 2 is equal to I times R sub 2. And then voltage at R sub 3 is equal to I times R sub 3. So, dito nakuha yon. So, upon substituting, since nawawala nga ito, hindi mo alam yan. So, maiiwan yan. Okay? So, this will become 8I. R2, 10I. and then R3 will now become 12I. So dito nakuha yun. Okay? And then transpose. You combine all the like terms. Okay? So this is supposedly be negative 30I. Okay? Nilipat lang natin sa kabila kaya naging positive 30I. And with that, makukuha natin si current. Okay? 30 divided by 4, that is equal to 0.4 ampere. So meaning, okay, yung nag-circulate na current or yung ating IT dito is equal to 0.4 amperes. So nakuha na natin yun. Okay? Nakuha na natin. Hindi pa natin alam kung ano yung voltage at a certain point. So parang yung ginagawa lang natin nung una. Okay? So, excuse me. So voltage at point A, okay, dito. Ayan. So ito yung node na hinahanap. Okay. So as you can see, point A, saan siya nakakonect? Na terminal. Okay. It is connected to the positive terminal of the 12 volts battery. Okay. Yung pinaka-bottom left, kung makikita natin, itong pababa, okay, that is labeled as 0 volts. Okay. Since the battery, okay, the battery raises the voltage by 12 volts, meaning, pagdaan niya dito sa node A, ano yung voltage na dadaan? Still ay 12 volts pa din. Okay? Kasi hindi pa naman siya nakakadaan dito sa resistor na yan. So wala pang mangyayaring bawas. Papasok pa lang. So yung papasok dito ay buong voltage na 12 volts. So pagpatak dito at dito at dito, saka pa yan mababawasan. Okay? Pero hindi pa natin alam kasi nga isosolve pa natin. So that's why your voltage at point A is equal to 12 volts. Next, the voltage at point B. Ito. Ito naman yung hinahanap natin. So, the voltage at point B, okay, ano naman yung dadaan, kumbaga sa kanya. Okay? So, point B comes after resistor number 1. Diba? After resistor number 1. So, meaning when the current passes through a resistor, its voltage will now drop. Okay? So, yung dumaan dito is voltage A. Okay? So, magda-drop dito sa voltage ni B. So, to get the voltage ni B, we have to subtract the voltage drop across the first resistor na nanggaling doon sa mismong voltage A. So, formula for voltage B, again, that is IR. Okay? IR ano? Anong R? Ano ba yung kumbaga saan bang siya after na resistor? O di sa R sub 1. Okay? So meaning the formula diyan for the voltage B is equal to VA minus IR1. Okay? So substituting, this will become 12 volts minus yung current which is 0.4 amperes times yung ating first resistor which is 8 ohms. Okay? And VB, okay, is equal to 8.8 volts. Okay? Ito po yun. Next, for voltage point at letter C. Ayan. So, kung nagigets niyo yung concept, para siyang VA, no, minus itong resistor, okay, minus yung voltage dito, minus yung resistor kung nadadaanan siya, so on and so forth. Okay? So, ulitin natin. Yan. So, voltage C. So, for voltage C, point C comes after resistor number 2. Okay? So, meaning, dumaang resistor number 2, nabawasan na naman yung voltage na papasok dyan. Okay? So meaning, ano ba yung voltage na dumaan na dito? Okay? Di ba from 12 volts, okay, 12 volts, bumaba, naging 8.8 volts. So meaning, instead of mag-start tayo from the scratch na 12 volts, pwedeng ito na yung gamitin natin. Okay? Yung voltage doon sa point B. Kasi ang voltage at point B is equal to 8.8 volts minus I R2. Bakit R2? Kasi again, okay, point C comes after the resistor number 2. Okay? So, pwede rin naman ang gawin natin. Okay? So, start tayo again for voltage A minus, dadaan dito. So, IR1. Next, dadaan ulit dito. So, IR2. Ayan. So, pwedeng ganyan. Okay? But itong part na to ay na-solve na natin at ito yun. Yun yung voltage P. So, meaning, to calculate VC, so VC is equal to 8.8 volts minus IR2. So, 0.4 amperes times 10 ohms. And your voltage at point C will now become 4.8. No, thank you. 4.8 volts. Okay, how do you know kung tama yung inyong kinalculate na voltage drops? Okay? Pwede check. Check the whole circuit. Okay? So, the voltage drops across R1, R2, and R3. Okay? Once na inad mo yan, okay? That should equal to the battery voltage. Okay? So, add natin. 3.2. O, 3.2. 3.2. Nasa na yun? Ayan. So, 4.8 plus 8.8. That is equal to, tama ba? Try natin yung substitute. O, voltage at R1, voltage at R2, voltage at R3. Formula, IR. O, 0.4 times 8. 3.2. Ano to? 0.4 times 10. 4 volts. Ito, 0.4 times, ano yung resistor number 3 natin? 12 volts. Oh. 0.4 times 3. 0.4, sorry, times 12. 4.8. Ayan. Upon adding all, 8 to 10. Carry 1, 4, 8, 12. Okay. So, meaning, tama yung naging solution natin dyan. Okay. So, 12 volts is equal to 12 volts. So, same. So, yung nakuha nating answer again. Okay. So, iba-box. Yan, pagka nag-solve. Actually, mas mahirap pa nga ito kumpara dun sa nandoon sa exam. Okay. So, IT. And then, yung tatlong voltages, A, B, and C. Okay. So, tomorrow, discuss pa natin yung other supplementary problems. But, syempre, no, i-discuss din natin itong sa part ng magnetism and electromagnetism para tayo ay makalimot na ulit sa midterm, sa magiging midterm. Okay, so I'll be presenting ulit another video. So, sinend ko siya kay Miss Luwalhati. Nang pa-present ulit ako ng dalawa. Okay, so parang tig 3 minutes lang ata yan or 5 minutes.
Professor Dave here. I want to tell you about magnets. He knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
We have known about the magnetic properties of certain types of matter for thousands of years and have long utilized this phenomenon for navigation in the form of a compass and also to display good report cards on the fridge. A few different kinds of magnets are instantly recognizable, like the popular horseshoe variety. And most people are aware that these attract iron-containing objects. Any bar magnet will have ends called poles. One will be the North Pole and one will be the South Pole, which were named as such because of the way a suspended bar magnet will orient with respect to the cardinal directions. This is how a compass works. It's just a magnetic needle that always points north. Like poles repel and opposite poles attract, just like electric charges. The difference is that opposite charges can be isolated, whereas no matter how many times you cut a magnet in half, it will always contain both poles. To fully understand the properties of matter that allow for magnetic behavior, we must understand the electron configurations of the atoms in the magnet, and we must therefore learn some chemistry. If you're interested, you can check out my General Chemistry series for more atomic knowledge than you can shake a stick at. But for our purposes here, it will suffice to understand that most materials contain atoms with all of their electrons paired up in orbitals, with one spin up and one spin down, such that they cancel each other out. But some substances like iron, cobalt, and nickel have electrons that aren't canceled out, and some of these can be called ferromagnetic. In these materials, the atoms will adopt an orientation such that all of their net spins are aligned in parallel fashion, and this phenomenon, which we can refer to as a magnetic domain, will generate a magnetic field. A magnetic field can be depicted using field lines, just like an electric field, and though they will appear to begin at the North Pole of the magnet and end at the South Pole, they have no true ends. They are closed loops that continue through the magnet itself. In this way, Earth itself is a giant bar magnet, with the magnetic North Pole about 1,500 kilometers from the geographic North Pole, and the magnetic South Pole about the same distance from the geographic South Pole. The geographic poles mark Earth's axis of rotation, but the magnetic poles exist because of the way atoms are distributed in Earth's iron core, which align their spins just like the atoms in a bar magnet. The magnetic poles actually change their position slightly over thousands of years, as material in the core changes position. There is so much magnetized material in the Earth's core that the magnetic field generated is absolutely immense, stretching far out into space. This field interacts with high-energy charged particles that race towards us from the sun and deflects them towards the magnetic poles to produce the aurora borealis, when these particles collide with molecules in our atmosphere. These become excited and release colorful light upon relaxing back to the ground state. Without the Earth's magnetic field, we would be at tremendous risk from this kind of radiation, and life on Earth probably wouldn't be possible. Electric current is able to deflect a compass needle, and magnetic fields affect the paths of particles with electric charge. So it wasn't long until we realized that electricity and magnetism were two sides of the same coin, which was then dubbed the electromagnetic force. We now realize this is true because it is the motion and orientation of electrons that produce magnetic fields. We can use the right-hand rule to show that if you grasp a current-carrying wire in your right hand with the thumb pointing in the direction of the current, your other fingers will wrap in the direction of the magnetic field that is generated by the current. We later came to understand how electric and magnetic fields fluctuate together to generate electromagnetic waves. This was the first time two seemingly separate forces were unified, but it wasn't the last. We have been able to unify most of the fundamental forces through our study of modern physics, And one of the primary objectives of physics today is unifying all of them into one grand unified field theory, a so-called theory of everything. Everything we have discussed in this classical physics course was discovered between the 17th and 19th centuries, and at the turn of the 20th century, things got a lot weirder thanks to Einstein and some of his pals. We learned that things can be both particles and waves, that time flows at different rates for different observers, and that space itself is curved around massive objects. So if you feel like you've sufficiently mastered the concepts presented in this series, I'll see you in the modern physics course. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content.
Ayan. Tapos nang yung ano naman, yung isang video na electromagnetism.
And magnetic fields, and the forces associated with them. This fundamental force of physics is one of the four fundamental interactions of nature, and governs much of the world around us. The word electromagnetism is formed from two other words, electricity and magnetism. Let's begin by discussing electricity. Imagine you're at a birthday party, and there are several balloons lying around. You pick one up and rub it on your hair. What happens? Two things. First, your hair will stand on end, and second, the balloon now has the ability to stick to walls. This neat trick is a great example of static electricity, commonly referred to as static. When you rub the balloon on your head, you transfer extremely small, invisible to the naked eye particles from your hair to the balloon. These particles are called electrons, and the rubbing action creates a static electric charge. The electrons come together on the balloon's surface, giving it a negative charge, while your hair, with a diminished number of electrons, now holds a positive charge, causing your hair to stand on end. The movement of electrons is generally referred to as electricity. In the previous example, we saw how electrons can accumulate on the balloon's surface. When electrons steadily flow through a material, however, it is called an electric current. Now, let's shift our focus to magnetism. If you take a bar magnet and sprinkle small iron pieces around it, you will notice that the filings arrange themselves in beautiful patterns around the magnet, forming what we refer to as magnetic fields. In other words, a magnetic field is the region around a magnetic material within which it exerts a force of magnetism. Both electricity and magnetism are connected, but how? An electric charge, when it moves, creates a magnetic field. Similarly, a changing magnetic field can create an electric field. It's like a never-ending dance, where one leads and the other follows. This perpetual interaction between electricity and magnetism is generally known as electromagnetism. If you wrap a wire around an iron nail and then connect the ends of the wire to a battery, you essentially create an electromagnet. The electric current that runs through the wire creates a magnetic field, transforming a simple iron nail into a magnet. This principle is used in many modern appliances, such as motors and generators. Power plants that supply electricity to buildings have massive generators that convert mechanical energy into electrical energy using the principles of electromagnetism. These generators contain magnets and coils of wire. When the turbines spin, as in windmills, the magnets move around and generate a flow of electricity through the coils of wire. This electricity is then distributed to our homes through power lines. We are surrounded by practical applications of electromagnetism in our daily lives. The ability to watch videos on our mobile devices is thanks to electromagnetic waves, which are created by electric and magnetic fields interacting with each other. Put simply, an electromagnetic wave is energy that travels through space in the form of electric and magnetic fields, which oscillate perpendicular to each other and to the direction of wave propagation. These waves travel at the speed of light. Brownie points if you can provide the exact value of the speed of light in the comments below. Electromagnetic waves have different wavelengths and frequencies, forming what we know as the electromagnetic spectrum. This spectrum includes radio waves, microwaves, infrared, UV, X-rays, and gamma rays. Visible light, which allows us to see the world around us, also makes up part of this spectrum. Examples of electromagnetism are all around us, including Wi-Fi routers, phones, laptops, credit card strips, toaster coils, microwave ovens, and the lighting in our bedrooms. Can you list 5 daily examples of electromagnetism in 1 minute, other than the ones I just mentioned? Put them in the comments below.
Okay, thank you. Ayan. Okay, so discuss natin itong intro ng magnetism. So, according to the video, okay, magnetism is a branch of physics, okay, that studies the forces. Ay, hindi pala ako nakashare. Ayan. Ayan, nakikita na ba ang aking screen ulit? Ayan. Ayan. So, it is the study of the forces produced by moving electric charges. So, meaning, okay, magnetism alone, okay, siya ay product ng movement of a certain electrons doon sa isang material. Okay? So, meaning, hindi siya totally random na force na bigla lang sumulpot. Ganun, no? So, nangyayari siya dahil unang-una, ano ba ang property ng ating electrons? Okay? So, electrons, 'di ba, movement niya, okay, sa paligid, 'di ba, ito yung nucleus. Okay? Dito yung mga electrons natin. Okay? Ang movement niya is in orbital motion. Paikot. Okay? So, meron silang sariling spin na parang maliliit. Okay? And then yung spin na yun, okay, yun yung nagka-create nung parang magnetic force. Okay? So, kapag pinagsama yung dalawang yun, ang tendency, ang nagiging product niya is yung tinatawag nating magnetic field. Okay. Next, what about electromagnetism? So, electromagnetism meaning electricity plus magnetism. Okay? So, meaning, pag may electric current, tayo sa isang circuit, okay, if meron tayong electric current, okay, ang napoproduce niya is yung tinatawag nating magnetic field. Magnetic field. Okay. And then vice versa. Kung may magnetic field naman, okay, meaning gumagawa naman siya ng electric current. Okay, siya yung dahilan kung bakit gumagana yung ating mga generators, motors. Okay. So next, yung mga ancient discoveries. So the earliest known magnetic material was lodestone. Okay? Parang binanggit to kanina, yung magnetite. Okay, so this is an example of naturally magnetized mineral capable of attracting iron. So ancient Chinese civilizations utilized these magnetic compasses for navigation as early as 200 BCE. Okay, so next would be yung ating Ørsted discovery. So this was demonstrated, okay, that an electric current flowing through a wire produces a magnetic field around the wire. So this experiment has been established by Hans Ørsted. Okay. So ito naman ay more on mga terms lang. Okay, so Faraday's contribution, again, kilala nyo naman yan, si Michael Faraday. So he's the one who discovered electromagnetic induction, proving that changing magnetic fields can also generate electric currents. Then for Maxwell unification, okay, so James Clerk Maxwell, he unified electricity and magnetism through 4 fundamental equations. Okay, that remains the foundation of electromagnetic theory. Now for the magnetic poles, okay, binanggit ito doon sa video. So every magnet possesses 2 poles. So una is yung North Pole and then yung South Pole. Okay, so according to rule number 1, North-North and South-South interaction produces repulsive forces. So meaning, Kapag dalawang north poles o dalawang south poles yung magkatapat, anong tendency nun? Nagtutulakan lang. Okay? Okay? Bakit nangyayari yon? So, syempre, dahil pareho yung direction ng kanilang magnetic field. Kaya naman, hindi talaga sila nagiging stable. Okay? Next, unlike poles attract according to rule number 2. So, meaning, kapag north pole and south pole yung magkatapat, okay, nag-a-attract sila. Okay? Dahil again, magkaiba yung direction ng field lines na naka-assign dun sa kanila. So therefore, okay, nag-a-align and then nagiging stable. And then finally, yung ating magnetic poles exist in pairs according to law number 3. So, ibig sabihin po, hindi po tayong pwede magkaroon ng magnet, okay, na north lang or south lang. So, kahit hatiin natin yan into pieces or sa gitna, okay, lahat nung magiging, kumbaga, natin mo yan dito. Okay. So, bawat piraso pa rin yan, kahit siya'y hati na, magkakaroon pa rin siya ng north and south. Okay. So, meaning, okay, hindi pwedeng isa lang. Yung ating, kumbaga, parang polarity, okay, it should exist in pairs. So, next, ayan, magnetic fields. So, magnetic field, A is the region surrounding a magnet or current-carrying conductor where magnetic force can be detected. So, SI unit na ginagamit natin is T or Tesla. Okay? So, for the magnetic field lines below are the properties. So, unang-una, it leaves the North Pole and enters the South Pole. Okay? It never intersects. Okay? Form continuous closed loops and then greater density indicates stronger fields. Now, for the Earth's magnetic field, okay, ang formula, okay, or magnetic field strength na ginagamit natin, okay, this is constant. 25 minus 65 times mu and then yung ating value, yung ating specific magnetic field. Tesla. So let us try here. Okay. Before ko i-discuss itong part na to, balikan natin yan mamaya. Discuss na muna natin itong sample problems. Kasi ito yung mahalaga. Madali na kasi ang terms. I-discuss lang natin yung sample problems. So, solving po for magnetic flux. So, magnetic flux measures the amount of magnetic field passing through a given surface. Now, formula for magnetic flux, okay, is equal to the magnetic field, which is yung ating B, the area, then cosine theta. Okay, so si theta is magdedepende doon sa given, kung meron bang giniven doon sa problem. Now, the unit for magnetic flux is Weber. Okay, or WB. So, sabi dito sa sample problem number 1, a uniform magnetic field of 0.8 Tesla passes through a circular loop of radius 20 cm. The field is perpendicular to the loop. So, find the magnetic field, magnetic flux. Yun ang sabi sa problem. So, given here is yung ating magnetic field, beta. And then, the radius are, okay, so, cm. Ito, ang area natin is m squared. So, we have to convert this into meters. So, this will become 0.2 meters. Ayan. And then, the field is perpendicular to the loop. Take note, pag sinabing perpendicular, ano ang degree natin? 90 degrees. And cosine 90 is equal to 0. That's why, okay, the angle na gagamitin natin between the field and the normal is equal to 0. Okay, lagi po yan. Tandaan natin. Now, for the solution, okay, we have to compute first the area. The area of the circular loop, pi r squared. Okay, so pi times yung radius. And we will be having, again, walang magra-round off sa exam, sa quiz, sa lahat. Ako na ang bahala mag-check doon. Okay, so we will be having 0.13 square meters. And then, upon establishing the area, you substitute it back doon sa formula. So we have the magnetic field and then the area. And then since sabi dun sa problem, perpendicular. Okay, so meaning the area is equal, the angle is equal to 0. Okay, so substituting, we will be having 0.1 Weber, yung ating magnetic flux. Okay, next. Dimension of a square loop, 0.4 by 0.4 meters. So the magnetic field and angle between the field are normal. And normal are 0.05 Tesla and 60 degrees respectively. So then again, determine the magnetic flux. Okay? Kaya naman, dapat alam natin yung area ng mga basic shape. Okay? Area ng triangle, ng circle, rectangle, sphere, cylinder. Aralin yan. O area ng square, S squared. Tama? Tama ba? Okay. So, area ng square, S squared. Ang side niya, ang side ng square ay same. Okay, so 0.4 squared. This is equal to 0.16 square meters. Okay, after nun, substitute. Direct substitution doon sa problem. Ano yung magiging total or final answer natin dito? Yung totoong value ha.
Let's start. Next. Student will be able to apply these conflict relations, particularly for mistakes. Conflict implication of each value. Also, pag-aralan natin
Pa-chat ako ng sagot sa chat box.
define first.
Okay, tignan natin. So, andyan din naman ang sagot sa inyong handouts. Okay, but syempre, maganda kung nasabay kayo sa pagsasolve. Pindot ba? Pindutin naman yung calcu. Okay? So, that should be equal to 0.004 Weber. Okay. So, balikan lang natin yung ilang terms. So, na hindi natin na-discuss. Ayan. So, magnetic materials. So, there are three. no, 3 types of magnetic material. So, depending syempre doon sa reaction nila sa mga magnets. Okay, so, unang-una dyan, okay, yung ating tinatawag na diamagnetic materials. So, sabi dito, these are the materials that develops weaker magnetic moments opposite the applied field. So, example, copper, silver, gold, and water. So, one of its characteristics is weakly repelled by magnets and then magnetic susceptibility is negative. So, syempre, copper is considered as diamagnetic dahil hindi siya na-attract. Talaga. Hindi siya na-attract. No tendency, ano nangyayari? Wala. Para siyang inaalis lang, tinataboy. Okay? Gold. Okay? Gold is diamagnetic. Okay? Okay? Dahil hindi siya nagiging magnet even though malakas yung kanyang field itself. No, kapag ang gold ay naging magnetic, peke yan. 'Di ba? Kaya nga pagka nagte-test doon sa mga pawn shop, anong unang ginagawa? Magnet test. So doon pa lang makikita mo kung siya ba ay ginto or what. Purong ginto, hindi. Okay? So paramagnetic materials. So when we say paramagnetic, so these are the materials na mahina lang yung na-attract doon sa magnet. So examples, aluminum, magnesium, and platinum. Kasi, ayun nga, sinabi ko sa inyo, weak attraction to magnetic fields. So aluminum and magnesium, they are considered as paramagnetic dahil konti lang or slight lang yung attraction niya doon sa magnet. Si magnesium naman, paramagnetic pa din. Okay? No, kahit na kung parang yes nadikit siya. Ano, pero nawawala din agad yung effect nun. Okay? Next would be the ferromagnetic material. So, ito yung kumpara doon sa dalawa, yung may pinakamalakas na magnetic field. So, example, iron, nickel, and then cobalt. So, characteristics, ayan, sabi ko na, strong attraction to magnetic fields, retain magnetization, and possess magnetic domains. So, iron is considered as ferromagnetic dahil iron alone can be a permanent magnet. Okay. Next, yung nickel naman natin, still ferromagnetic siya dahil ang one of the characteristics na pinapossess niya is yung strong attraction to magnets. The same goes with the cobalt. Ayan. So magnetic domains. So this is the region where atomic magnetic moments align in the same direction. So kung magnetized, meaning they are randomly oriented. And if magnetized, the domains align, producing a strong net magnetic field. Ayan. Next would be, so mamaya na ulit ito. Solving ulit. Magnetic field due to dipole. So the formula for the magnetic field produced along the axial line of a magnetic dipole is equal to, magnetic field is equal to the permeability. Okay? Ito ay kino-consider natin as constant. Okay? So the value ng ating permeability of free space is equal to 4 pi times 10 raised to negative 7. Okay, kung ayaw mo naman ito, pwede mo naman siyang i-solve pa. Okay, kasi itong kaya yan ay 4 pi kasi 3.16 pinag-times mo pa sa 4 raised to negative 7. Okay, so 1.25 times 10 raised to negative 6. Then, times 2m. M is the magnetic dipole moment. And then, divided by 4 pi times r cubed. And r is considered as the distance from the dipole center. So unit A, m squared, ito ay m. Sample problem. So for the sample problem, a magnetic dipole has a magnetic moment of 0.5 am squared. So determine the magnetic field on its axis at a distance of 0.10 meter from the center. Okay, so gagamitin ulit natin yung formula. Magnetic field is equal to the permeability of the free space, 2m, times 4 pi r cubed. Okay, meron ka nito. Ito yung constant. Ito yon. Okay. 2m. So, 2 times ito. 0.5 m squared. And then, 4 pi r cubed. 4 pi, as is na yan, ang r cube. Unit nito is meter. Okay? Since itong distance natin from the center. So, distance from the center, basically, that is the radius. So, 0.10 meters. Okay? Simply direct substitution lang. What would be the unit for the magnetic field? So, ang lalabas dapat dito is naka-Tesla or T, yung ating unit. Anong sagot natin? Okay, so 1.0 times 10 raised to negative 4 Tesla. Okay? Yan. Sige. Break muna. I-discuss na natin hanggang dito. Break muna for 15 minutes. So, babalikan ko kayo ng 10:25. Okay? Sige.
Iba yun.
Ayan, okay. Sige, let's start na ulit. Okay, let us continue with magnetic dipole-dipole interaction. So, according to our material, it is the magnetic force and potential energy that exist between two magnetic dipoles. So, madaling salita, kapag may dalawang magnet or any type of material na may magnetic property, nagkakaroon sila ng force between each other na pwedeng mag-attract or pwede rin naman na mag-repel. So, tawag daw po doon is magnetic dipole. So, magnetic dipole can be a small bar magnet, current carrying loop, an atom, or an electric possessing a magnetic moment. So, meaning any type of material or thing na may north and south pole. Okay? So, why does this happen? So, nangyayari yun dahil ang bawat or each of the dipoles is creating its own magnetic field. Okay? Yung field na yun yung umaabot doon sa kanyang surroundings. Okay? And then, once na nagkalat siya doon sa kanyang surrounding, ang tendency noon, yung katabing dipole ay naaapektuhan. So, there's two interactions. Okay. First one would be the attractive, and then second one is yung ating repulsive. Okay, so attractive, meaning when the dipoles align in a favorable orientation, and then repulsive, if the dipoles align unfavorably. Okay. So meaning, north pole to north or south pole to south pole. So the strength of the interaction decreases rapidly with the distance. So therefore, it is inversely proportional with the distance between the center. So 1 over r cubed, where r is the separation distance between the dipoles. Okay, next. Nasaan na yun? Ayan. Let us move on with this one. Ayan. So, potential energy of dipole-dipole interaction. So, the interaction energy between two dipoles is generally expressed as the first dipole moment multiplied by the magnetic field produced by the second dipole. Okay? For two dipoles aligned along the same axis, ang gagamitin nating formula is ito pong nasa baba. Yan. So, let us consider case 1 muna. So, according to case 1, ito po ay attractive configuration. So, meaning magkadikit. Okay? Magka-align. Okay? Kaya nakalinya siya ng maayos, north to south, north to south. Okay? And the magnetic moments point in the same direction. So, ibig sabihin, ang north pole yung unang magnet. Okay? And then, siya ay nakaharap naman sa south pole, which is yung pangalawang magnet. So, one of its characteristics, unang-una, is lower potential energy. Okay, so, meaning naghahanap siya ng pinakamababa na energy state in order to achieve yung tinatawag na nating relaxation. Okay. So, dahil nga gusto nilang magdikit, a tendency noon is mas mababa yung napaproduce na energy. For stable arrangement, so dahil mababa nga yung energy, meaning sila ay unstable, stabilized. Okay? Position is as is. Hindi sila madaling gagalaw ng kusa. Parang magnet na magkadikit sa dulo, 'di ba? Kahit siya ay alug-alugin mo or tawag ito, move, hindi siya basta-basta humihiwalay. So, attractive force, okay, so naghihilahan sila pataas or palapit towards each other. For repulsive configuration, dito naman, hindi sila tugma ng position. So meaning magkaharap yung dalawang south or magkaharap yung dalawang north. So unlike case number 1, it has higher potential energy. So parang spring. Pagka kino-compress natin or pinipilit nating ipitin, okay, anong tendency? Pagka binitawan, di ba? Mas high yung energy or tulak na mapoproduce. Next, unstable arrangement. So, sa madaling salita, sa sandali na magbitawan mo sila, magbitawan mo, ang tendency nun, iikot yung magnet para no, hindi siya titigil not unless makahanap siya ng stable position. Next, repulsive force. Okay? So, nagtutulakan away from each other. So, what is its importance in engineering and physics? So, for material science, unang-una dyan is ferromagnetism. Okay? So, yun nga, dipoles. Ang mga dipoles kasi each atoms has dipoles. Okay? Kusa yun. Kusa silang nag-a-align into one direction in order to be a strong magnet. Yan. Next, anti-ferromagnetism. So, dito naman, yung mga katabing dipole ay parang alternate ng direction. So, pwedeng up, down, down, up, down, up. So, dahil dito, ang tendency naman niyaan ay yung magnetic effect is being cancelled. Okay? Next, ferromagnetism. So, katulad lang din ng anti-ferromagnetism na parang alternate. Okay? Ang pinagkaibahan lang is mas malakas yung kanyang energy. Okay? Okay. In what way? So, mas malakas kapag nakaturo, okay, or in upward direction kaysa doon sa mga nasa baba. Okay. Next, solid state physics. So, magnetic domain formation. So, let's say for example, sa loob ng isang metal. So, sa loob nun, merong mga domains. Okay? Kung saan, dun sa mga domains na yon magkakasama yung mga dipoles. These dipoles, parang they are pointing towards the same direction. Let's say upward. Okay? So, lahat sila upward direction. So, yung dipole-dipole interaction na yon, siya yung nagdidikta kung paano nabubuo yung mga tawag dito, domains. Basta ito ay included yung domains. Yung mga domains na nakapaloob sa isang certain material. So, spin interactions. So, dito naman, electron spins. So, dun sa kanilang interaction between each other, okay, ang involved pa din is yung ating dipole interaction. The only thing, kung dito ay domain, dito naman ay electrons. Next, medical imaging. So, alam natin yan, yung MRI. So, magnetic resonance imaging. So, MRI scanners sa hospitals, they uses what? Strong magnets, okay, sa loob ng ating katawan. Okay? In order to provide yung much more detailed na picture nung nasa loob ng katawan natin, mga laman loob. Yan, nanotech. So nanotech, ayan, magnetic nanoparticles from the word itself, nano, meaning napakaliit na magnets. Usually ginagamit natin for medicines specifically designed to treat cancer patients. Next, data storage devices. Ayan, included dito yung mga HDD ng computer. So, hard disk drives, syempre, ayan, yung maliit na tool, kaya nakakapag-store siya ng sobrang huge storage. So, next would be the quantum computing. So, spin-based qubits. So, in terms of quantum computers, yung mga qubits o yung tinatawag nating quantum bits, it represents the spin of electrons. But not only electrons, but also yung nucleus. Okay? So, syempre, once na nag-i-spin yan, okay, take note na yung spin na yun, hindi lang siya basta umiikot. Okay? Sobrang bilis nung spinning na nangyayari. And that creates the magnetic interactions. Next for the, ayun, same lang din for the quantum information processing. So they are both connected. So next naman dyan is yung ating sample problem. So sample problem for interaction energy between two dipoles. So two magnetic dipoles have moments 0.2 and 0.3 am squared. So they are aligned along the same axis and separated by a 0.05 meter distance from the dipole center. So find the interaction energy. So interaction energy again, ang gagamitin natin dito ay yung formula kanina. Ito. Unit is in joules. Ito. Ayan. So, ang permeability of free space natin is always constant. Again, ano nga ang value neto? This is equal to 4 pi times 10 raised to negative 7 Tesla meter per area. Ayan. So, next, substitute the values. So, sa problem kanina, merong moment or dipole moment na mention. So, mu1, mu2. Meaning, the first dipole moment and then the second dipole moment. So, 0.2 and 0.3. This is your mu sub 1, this is your mu sub 2. Next, the distance between the dipole center. So, distance from the center, that is your radius. Okay. So, substitution lang. Okay? You have the value, divide to a mu O times 2, mu sub 1, mu sub 2, divided by 4 pi r cube. Meron ka nito, constant yan. Ito, meron ka nito, ito, at saka nung ating r. Okay? What will be our answer in joules? Okay. Positive ba or negative? Okay, negative. So, bakit po negative yung ating sagot? Okay. Kapag pa na-explain sa atin, why do you think negative yung interaction energy? Okay. Ibig sabihin, kapag sinabing negative yung lumabas, the energy presented nung two different type of materials are attractive and stable. Meaning, doon sa two cases, case 1 and case 2. So, pasok siya under case number 1. Ibig sabihin, kusa nilang nagustuhan yung parehas, yung each other. No? Kusa nilang nagustuhan yung isa't isa. Okay? And then, yung nilabas nilang energy, okay, yun is nag-result into a stable configuration. Next, effect of distance, sample problem number 2. Okay, so two identical magnetic dipoles are separated by 2 centimeters. So if the distance is increased to 6 centimeter, by what factor does the interaction strength change? So bakit ang ginamit natin dito is 1 over r cube? Okay, bakit natin ginamit dito yung formula na 1 over r cube. So dito kasi class, ginamit natin dito yung ratio method para hindi natin kailangang i-compute yung buong formula. Alam naman natin na ang interaction ay nakadepende saan? Sa 1 over r cube. Ito yun. Saan na yan? Ayan. The strength of the interaction decreases rapidly with the distance, varying approximately as 1 over r cube, where r is the separation distance between the dipoles. Okay, kasi po, kung kukunin natin yung ratio nung unang distance, okay, di ba? Yun ay magiging interaction 2 over interaction 1. Okay, 1. Ang R1 natin ay 2 cm. Ang R2 natin ay 6 cm. Okay, so ito ay R1 over R2 cube. Okay. Pag sinubstitute natin yung values, anong mangyayari? That will become 1/3 cube. Kasi 2 over 6 eh. So 1/3 cube. So, kapag kinube natin, anong mangyayari? Okay, you simplify the answer. And that should be equal to 1 over 27. So, dahil nga, tinripple mo yung distance from 2 naging 6. Okay? So, unlike dun sa initial na strength, okay, mas malaki na yung strength ngayon kasi mas malaki yung distance na in-increase niya. Sa madaling salita, nabawasan yung energy or force by 27. Okay, by a factor of 27. So this should be equal to this should be interaction 2 over 1. Okay, pakibago noon. Baliktad kasi yan. And then, syempre, ito naman alone ay hindi sapat. Kasi yung mga nandiyan dyan ay medyo basic, pero medyo simple lang yung tawag dito, solution. So, bukas, I be preparing sample problems for KCL and KVL. And then, sample problems mula magnetic flux. Syempre, iba naman para ma-practice hanggang dito sa, ayan, dito sa 1 over r cube. Okay, so bukas mas level ng konti, level 2 yung problem solving. Kasi I know, no, kahit hindi ko siya i-discuss ngayon, i-follow nyo lang yung nandiyan sa material, magigets nyo yan. Okay, but syempre, diniscuss ko lang ng mabilisan, madalian, para bukas ay hindi tayo hirap na sa pagkakapa ng formula. Kasi nadaanan natin today. Ayun. So, ito naman po, yung dinidiscuss ko ngayon ay hindi naman siya kasama sa midterms. Again, ang scope ng midterms ay buong electricity lang. Buong electricity. Also, pala, aside from KCL and KVL, I'll be providing sample problems for electrical power kasi parang na-skip natin yung part na yun. Ito. Though ang formula lang naman is VI, but then again, ay di paraanan lang natin kahit isang sample problem. Ayun. May tanong ka po? So bukas walang absent ha, kasi bukas though may recitation naman kayo today, but ilan lang naman itong sumagot sa chat box. So bukas, bawi yung iba. Ayan. Regarding sa prelims, hindi ko pa po na-checkan. Apo. Pero ibabalik ko po ang inyong prelims, ang inyong quiz, buong test paper, ibabalik ko po yan. And then yung rubrics pala ay next week na. Ako na